Go for it or what?
Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Chris, and I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 27th, 2005. Means that I just got this bad boy this last week. I don't know where my camera is. Boom. Super stoked. I'm first off, Blair, thank you for asking me to speak. I'm always 100% down to participate in my recovery. And I'm truly believe Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my life on multiple occasions at this moment in time. In 2004, I had a doctor tell me that if I kept living the way that I was living, that I was going to surely die of a heart attack by the time I was 30. And he gave me some medication to help with something, you know. And he said, I'm not telling you can't stop drinking. What I'm telling you is that you can't drink it, right? So if you were to say take the pill and then drink, you would die of horrible, painful liver failure over a process of a few weeks in the hospital. And I was like, well, what if I just don't take the medicine at all? And he was like, well, you'll have a heart attack at some point in time. And he's like, so what I'm saying is, if you're going to drink, don't take the pill for 2 days, and then drink, and then don't take the pill for another day. Let the alcohol get out of your system. So basically, plan your drinking, like pick a holiday, And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. What about like Christmas, New Year's, and then like my birthday? They're all like back to back, and which they're not at all. And he was like, well, just pick one. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I went to go walk out of medical, and I threw the medication in the trash, because at that point in time, I knew that it was impossible for me to plan my drinking. I knew that for a fact. And like, I started drinking when I was young, at 15. I hated drugs and alcohol. I hated what they did to my family. I didn't want to be an alcoholic like my mother, my grandfather, and or my sister. And all it took was the gangster from across the way to tell me to come over to drink with him and his wife, and I was off and running. That's it. He was the only male figure in my life at the time that treated me with any amount of respect. All I had to do was, like, deface other people's property and steal things randomly to get said attention. And I wasn't going to lose that. So when he said, come over and drink with me and my wife, I was like, I'll be there in 30 minutes. And I went over there, and I was off and running from the get. Like, I drank and I used as frequently as I could at 15, flat out. If I had money in my pocket, it was going towards alcohol, it was going towards weed, it was going towards whatever I could get my hands on. I quickly quit school, I quit college, I quit the job that I had, and that was my main focus. It's what I wanted to do from then on out, was party my ass off. And it was super fun for a while. Like, I didn't get into trouble the first time until I was 19. Yeah, I was 19. And at that moment in time, I was working 3 jobs. One of them was an assistant manager of an apartment building. So I had my own apartment for no reason. It was crazy. And life was fucking awesome. And then I have other problems besides alcohol. One of them is females and my relationships toward them. And I quit both of my regular paying jobs to chase that female, and it didn't work out. And I found myself with no other income and still needing to get my booze and my drugs. So I decided to start robbing stores and selling Nike gear on the side. And that worked for a minute. And when I mean a minute, I mean I'm a horrible crook, and I got caught in 7 days. And little scare with prison time, and I plea bargained down and for some misdemeanors, and like any good gangster, I ran home to mom and went back there, and my presence wasn't really welcomed in a sober household at that moment in time. My mother and her husband were both sober for like a decade or close to it or around there. I'm not too sure. We got drunk at my sister's wedding reception. So I don't know how much time she had when I was 19. Um, yeah. And so that didn't last. And I left there and moved in with my sister for all of like a day before I walked my happy butt to another city and spent the night on a couch and um, started everything back up again. You know, like I think within a week of being in Temecula, California, I was selling drugs and an assistant manager of a Little Caesars. Like, if there's one thing that I'm really good at, it's hustling. It's working. It's hustling for money and getting work done and doing the deal. I'm really, really good at it. And I think it was like 3, 4 months by the time I met another her and got her pregnant and was like, I need to do something else with my life, you know. At that moment in time, every cop in the city knew my name and things weren't going well. By the following fall, so I'm like 20, um, I would get raided, right? And the connect would go walking by in the middle of that raid, and any thought that alcohol and drugs had brought that down on me went away. And at that moment in time, I got out of the game and I ran and signed up for every branch that would take me. And every branch was like, "No, you're a criminal." I got to the Navy, they're like, "What? You did what? Sweet. Here's sign here. We're gonna get you in." And took me 5 months to actually get into the military. Promises and took it all away because I was a criminal. You know, I was a criminal with no high school education, and I took it all away. You know, and I was immediately resentful, and I held that resentment against them. I get in trouble with the military a few times for drinking. The second time they couldn't prove it. The first time they sent me to rehab. And when I went to treatment in SARP in San Diego, what would end up happening is they told me if I didn't pass, they were going to kick me out. So I did everything I could do, you know, and yet and screamed at the instructors and the people there that were just trying to help. And I think I ditched out one time to try to go make amends to my son's mother on her wedding day. Really bad call. If you're not on that step, don't do it yet. But what happens that the first meeting that they took me to while I was in there, went to a speaker meeting in Coronado, and there was this guy with 35 years, right? And he spoke that night. He talked about some of the things that I had done, and I related to that. He's like, I basically did this, and I did this, and I was like, I did that, and I did that, you know. And they told me I had to get a temporary sponsor, so I went up to him after the meeting, and I asked him to be my temporary sponsor. And he said, "Oh, I would love to. You're with the SARP guys, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "What branch are you in?" I'm like, I'm in the Navy." He's like, "Oh, me too." And I'm like, "Yeah, you shared that." And he's like, "Where are you stationed?" I'm like, "Ventura." And he's like, "Never mind." And he turned and he walked away. So my mom was sober, my stepfather was sober, my sister had some time in recovery, and I knew that's not what you did here. And it copped another resentment against Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a temporary sponsor. I did what you told me to do, but I never called the guy, you know, and I didn't pay attention to meetings, just chased females that entire time and did what I wanted to do. You know, I went down there with a friend of mine. We spent the next 90 days out of treatment being like, "Yeah, we got this. We're going to do it together. We're not alcoholics, but we don't have to drink, and we're going to show them," you know. And so we're out for a few months and trying to go play pool, and we find a ride to go play pool, and these two girls take us out into town. Instead of going to Ventura, I don't know if you've ever been to Point Magoo, but Ventura is north, Camarillo is south east, and they took us to Camarillo and bought some booze, brought it to the car, and asked us to drink with them. And we were like, "We don't drink, we're alcoholics." Right? The word had never crossed my lips before at that moment in time, not in any sincerity, And they're like, "Oh, come on." And I'm like, "No, no, I don't drink. I'm an alcoholic." And they're like, "Oh, please." And I was like, "Okay," because she was cute. And I went out and I drank that night, and I didn't black out. Nothing bad happened. And immediately I was like, "Huh, see, I'm not an alcoholic." Right? That was in 2002. So, like I said earlier, in 2004, a doctor was going to tell me I was going to die. I tried to commit suicide that year. At the end of the year, I got in trouble for drinking again. They couldn't prove that I was drunk. But I remembered that first stint in rehab, and I remembered that your hats are off to me if I can control and enjoy my drinking. And I spent from August of 2004 to March 2005 trying to control and enjoy my drinking and failing at every attempt. I went from drinking every day to 4 days a week to 3 days a week to twice a week to once a week. And finally, it was like New Year's Eve. Shit was hella bad. And then January 20th, a friend of mine was leaving the Sigonella, Italy on the 21st, which is a Friday. And he was like, "Chris, come out and drink with me tonight." And I'm like, "I can't. We have work tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh, we'll just go. We'll have a few. We'll sing a few songs." And I'm like, "If I go to the bar, I'm going to get drunk and I will show up to work drunk tomorrow because I'm not an alcoholic." And he's like, "Well, we'll just drink here then and hang out. What do you keep here?" And I'm like, "I don't keep liquor in the house anymore because I'm not an alcoholic." And he's like, "Well, does your roommate have any booze or whatnot?" And I was like, "Yeah, he does. He keeps it locked up in his closet in his locked room because I'm not an alcoholic." And he's like, "I got a perfect idea. We'll go to the corner store. We'll grab two. We'll come back. We'll play cards, and that'll be it." And I'm like, "Great idea." So I came to work the next morning at 9:30 in the morning with my the guy that I carpool to work with. I drove him every morning to work, waking me up in the back and telling me that I almost killed him on the way to work. We made it to work on time, but I almost killed him on the way in. And he looked at me dead straight in the face and said, "Chris, you have a problem with alcohol. You almost killed me on the way to work. I don't give a fuck if I died. But what would my wife have done? Get the fuck up. We're going to go talk to the DAPA chief." And he gave me that disgusted look I was all too familiar with that I had seen from ex-girlfriends and family members. And I knew right then and there that no matter how much I wanted to die, I couldn't bear the thought of taking any of you with me. I couldn't live with that pain anymore. I couldn't live with the fact that every time that I drank that I hurt somebody emotionally, physically, financially, like I hurt people, And I went and told the DAPA that I needed help and I needed help now. And he said, "We'll sign you up for treatment." And I was like, "If you waste 9 months, I'm not going to make it. Like, I got to go as soon as possible. Like, as soon as possible." Like, I was desperate, you know? I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I wanted to stop. I wanted to die. And drinking was going to get me there, according to what the doctor said. And, but I sure as hell didn't want to take any of you with me, And so I went there with the fervor of the desperation of a dying man. Like, how can I not drink because I don't want to hurt you anymore? That's where I was at. And that first year, that's what I sought out. I was like, I was 100% willing to find a solution to not drink, not be angry, and to stop telling lies. That's all I wanted. And I'll tell you right now, that's all that I got. When it came down to a thorough and fearless moral inventory, that's what made it to paper. Everything else was bullshitted. When it came to a fear inventory, I was 100% brave and courageous and not scared of anything but dumb things like heights and sharks, And when it came to the sex inventory, it was a brag sheet. It was a fucking brag sheet. I didn't hurt any of them. It was all mutual. And a bunch of BS. Straight bunch of BS. And my ideal was like super superficial. and my fifth step took forever, and I cried a lot. You know, I was angry. Like my resentment inventory was like 86 pages long. You know, I was really, really angry. Um, but I found a solution. I found a solution for my anger. I found a solution for drinking. At 9 months of sobriety, it's Christmas time. They do this big old Christmas party, and everybody gets faded. And everybody in my shop was talking about how they wanted to uh, uh, bar hop, and then go to the Christmas party, and then bar hop, and then go to some after parties. And I was just like, whoa, they're gonna get faded. And I was like, hey, I went to my command and I asked them to use the duty van so I could drive them around all night, you know, because if they didn't have a duty driver, they were going to drive. They were going to drive. Someone was going to get hurt, you know, and that's what I did that night. And I drove around everybody in my shop, from bar to bar, from the Christmas party to house parties. And I think I got home at like 4:30 in the morning, and I like was sitting there lying in bed, realizing that I didn't think about drinking once all night long. I was surrounded by alcohol. I was surrounded in the environment that I thrived in when drinking. And I didn't think about drinking once, not a single time. And like, there was little things like that that allowed me to build a relationship with my creator, with the thing that I call the big homie today. And I'll tell you right now, and it hasn't ended. It hasn't stopped, you know. I would eventually get to another four-step. Let's see. Ooh, 1 minute. I would eventually get to another four-step and get everything onto paper and get super honest with another sponsor. I got really sick in Alcoholics Anonymous around 3 years, 3 years sober, 3.5, really sick, and turned into a tornado. I was not the person that you wanted your sponsees around. In sobriety, and I sought out sponsorship, you know, and someone became willing, and I went over to his house every weekend for a month and knocked it out, and worked the steps multiple times since then. I found a sponsor in 2009 when I was having issues. I came down with a brain tumor in 2013 and lost my memory, and was struggling a lot in multiple departments of my life. And I had watched this guy change from 2007 to 2014, and I asked him to walk with me, you know? And that's what we did. We woke up every day and we showed up to coffee at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we went through the book one page at a time every day, you know, amongst other spiritual readers. And we talked about programming, we talked about spirituality, we talked about God, we talked about getting up and doing the right thing. We talked about getting up, getting right with God, getting right with me, so I could be right to you, which is what I've wanted since the day I got here. It's all that I want. I want to be right to you, you know? For me to be right to you, I have to be the man that I want to be. To be the man that I want to be, I got to get right with the God that I have. I love my life as a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous. The people I've met along the way have kept me alive so I could get there, you know? Today I live a wonderful life. I live with my brother. He's not my blood relative, but he's my brother, you know? My wife, my son, and his kids, you know, in this COVID business. Like, I'm locked in the house with my favorite people, you know? Sucks being locked in the house, but I'm with my favorite people, you know? My life is fucking awesome today. That's right. I love the interpreter. Two hands, you know? So good. You're awesome. Lay, I can't say her name. Elle. I'm going to call you Elle. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and shut up. And I cursed a lot on a recording that I didn't know about, but you still have my permission. All right. I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, Chris.